Hello and welcome to Hardy Party of 5.5. Well, hello, Rebecca.
Hello. How are you?
I feel like that was a theme song I've heard before.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think it's a video game.
It is a video game.
Okay.
It's been around for years.
It's been around for a long time. It may have just had a new movie that came out with Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
What was it?
Mario Brothers.
Super Mario Brothers.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Tell me, is that like, okay, how many different Mario Brothers has there been? A lot?
I don't
know
know.
Super Mario Brothers and Mario Kart.
I'm going to be honest with you. I never got into Super Mario that much, and I never got into Mario Karts that much.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know a lot about that. So I was more like, okay, we're going way back here.
All right. Okay.
There's the first game I ever played was Pong, which you like to call ping, but it's called Pong.
That's the little lines on the side, right?
Yeah. It looks like the aerial view of a tennis court, and it was just two rectangles on either side, and it was supposed to be a ball, but it was just a pixel. It was a square that went back and forth, and you tried to not let it go by you.
I tried that
was
game.
My first game.
I remember playing that game.
Yeah.
Was it on Atari?
Yes, it was.
Okay, I remember playing that game like twice. I thought it was so ridiculous. I had no time for that.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I'm done here.
Okay.
I don't even know what I'm doing.
Well, along those lines, there was Missile Command.
Yeah.
Which was very pixelated, too, and you'd roll the thing around and try to keep the missiles from hitting your...
Yeah, that was all the little, like, rocks and stuff flying around, right?
Well, no, you're thinking Asteroids, I think.
Asteroids.
Okay, Asteroids is my favorite.
Yeah.
There was a stop and go a few blocks from the apartment we lived in. So I would bring my quarters. You stacked your quarters up. If you ever went to the arcade, you stack your quarters up to let people know how long you're going to be there.
Yeah.
So I've got like 6 quarters stacked up. So you might as well just go on home, because I am totally playing this all afternoon.
Oh, that's
so I would go play Asteroids at the stop and go.
Oh, my God.
And yeah, that was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And
I didn't really get too much into that. Like, I didn't play any of those games, but it wasn't until we got to like, is it Galaga? Is that what it's called?
Galaga.
So Galaga, Pac-Man, and Centipede.
Yeah.
And Frogger. Now, that is an unstoppable generation of video games.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the 80s, perfect.
Okay, Centipede, I remember you had the ball in the middle that you rolled around. How many times did you pinch your fingers in? I pinched it in all the time. I must have played violent. I must have played violently, because I would always, on the little roller ball.
I never pinched my fingers, and I was always high score.
Like, well, okay.
Okay, I'm lying about that part.
Okay. I was pretty good at Galaga. I spent way too much time playing Galaga.
I scored any video game unless they had just cleared the machine.
If you were the first one to play after the...
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But I really liked Frogger, probably one of my favorite ones. I did not like Dig Dug, but a lot of people like Dig Dug.
And I was a big Pac-Man fan, and mainly Miss Pac-Man.
What?
Was mine.
Really?
I really enjoyed Miss Pac-Man.
That's so funny. Well, today, our guest today, he has a book out called Know Thy Gamer, which is so good. If you have kids, and even if you are like a child yourself and you like to play video games as an adult, whatever, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I get asked all the time about boundaries with that type of stuff. How is it good? Where can we find good in this? How do I dissect what games to let in the home? Like, it is so good. So you're going to want to run out and get this book after you listen to this incredible interview with Drew Dixon. So tell us a little bit about yourself as a kid. Like, were you a gamer as a kid?
Yeah, so definitely was a gamer as a kid. I think my mom bought a Nintendo Entertainment System, an NES, and she thought it was going to be a toy for her and my dad, like a game for them, stuff for them to do together. And then they hardly played it, and it kind of became my brother and I's toy as a kid, And so, yeah, big gamer as a kid.
So what'd you play mainly?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up playing like Zelda and was for a while was a really big Final Fantasy fan. So like Final Fantasy 3 and Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah.
But I played everything. I played racing games. I played a lot of role playing games. I'm still to this day a big Mario fan. Like every Mario iteration of Mario, sort of like.
Hey, so did you like the movie that just came out? Have you seen it?
Yeah, I thought it was really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I took my son, and he thinks Mario centers around Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he called it the Mario Kart movie, but it's
How old is he?
he's 5.
Okay.
That would make sense.
No.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, now we're playing other Mario games together, so his universe is expanding. But yeah, I thought it was really fun. Did y'all see it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was
Yeah,
really
it was
good.
super
We enjoyed it.
Yeah, we liked it.
Yeah.
So what was it that we played on? What was the gaming system?
Okay, I think we were on Nintendo. Are you talking about Hook?
Yes, we
Okay,
played
this is a
Hook.
long time ago when we first got married in
Yeah.
92, 93.
Yeah, we're old.
And the Hook game came out, but you couldn't.
Yeah.
So we would play it in the evenings at dinner, and then we would leave it on because you couldn't save it. We would go to work. We'd come back the next day. It
Just
took us
leave
like
it
4
on.
days to finish it. And you got, and it was Hook, so you ended up battling Captain Hook at the end
Yeah.
as Peter Pan.
Yeah, Peter Pan.
But it
yeah,
took us
so-
like 4 days. I'll never forget. We left it on
we
for 4
left it
days.
on.
Yeah.
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 Couldn't-
Yeah, kind of maddening.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
If
when
you
you
couldn't save it, I'm sure.
were playing, did your parents have any kind of rules to take care of issues with you and your brother, or did they just let you go at it and do whatever you wanted?
You know, it was a different world back then. I think like video games were so new for families back then that like it was kind of the Wild West in my home. Like I definitely remember my mom getting annoyed at times at me and my brother and be like, get outside, do something else, you know.
Yeah.
But also I would say I was a fairly well-rounded kid in the sense that like I was into soccer, I was into hockey. I did lots of other things. And so my life didn't revolve around them, but there were definitely periods like where I played them too much, but my parents just didn't, I don't know, don't think they had the same concern that parents do now about like limiting screen time and stuff. So I definitely like played more than I probably should have.
Well, I think, like you're saying, it was so new, we didn't really know the effects of what was going on. I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, did you ever rage quit with your brother, or did he ever rage quit on you?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think we ever threw controllers or anything, but we definitely got mad and turned it off, or got mad at each other playing, you know.
Yeah.
I'm really competitive. Like actually my brother was much kinder than I was growing up, even though he was older. But yeah, definitely like had a few of those kind of moments.
Yeah.
Normal brother stuff. So
yeah.
So when I was reading your book, I was kind of surprised you were talking about the characteristics of the average gamer. And can you share some of that with us? Because I think we'd be surprised who the gamers are these days.
Yeah, sure. I'll see if I can remember them all. But yeah, I think the average gamer is somewhere around 35 years old. And 42% or so, somewhere between 40 and 45%, depending on the year, of all gamers are women, are female. And you know, like there was a study that I think there's this assumption that video gamers are like lonely, unpopular, overweight, like not physically active. Like there's all these stereotypes that we think we have about gamers, and the reality is that gamers don't really fit any of those stereotypes. The reality is that kind of like everybody is a gamer these days.
Yeah.
You know, it's 220 million Americans play video games regularly, so it's something like almost 2/3 of the population of our country. It's a huge pastime for people, and it's prevalent. And it's like, you know, you think you're not a gamer, but you probably are. Like if you play Words with Friends or Wordle or like Candy Crush Saga or whatever, if you're just pulling out your phone to waste some time in between like tasks or classes or whatever it is that you do, like you're a gamer, and you need to know that about yourself. Video games are all around us. They're a huge part of our culture. And so this kind of idea that video gamers are one thing, it just doesn't fit anymore. It's not the paradigm anymore. All kinds of kids are playing them, and all kinds of adults are. In fact, it's more adults than kids these days, you know?
Yes, that's true. That would classify my 77-year-old parents as gamers.
Yeah, because they play Wordle
They
every
play
day.
Wordle and
Yeah.
Words with Friends all the
Yeah.
time.
Yep, they're gamers.
Yeah,
They need to own it.
They sure are.
We need to tell them they're gamers.
Well, forever I have said that today's video game kids are tomorrow's surgeons because of that whole hand-eye coordination and the things that they're learning. So why would you say video games are good for us?
Yeah. I mean, I think at the most fundamental level, we need to understand that video games are a type of game, and games are a type of play. And play has been proven in tons of studies to be a really important part of what it means to be human. I think I make the argument in my book that that God is playful, and then there's playful elements of God's relationship to how he created the world, but then also the world itself. And there's even these visions in the Bible of like the new heavens and new earth, where Isaiah describes children playing over the holes of cobras' dens, and Zechariah envisions us in the new heavens and the new earth playing in the streets of our new Jerusalem. And so like all those, I think, to me, set a theological precedent that play is valuable. But you could even look scientifically at studies that have been done on play. It's good for our social development as human beings. It's good for like our relational development, how we build relationships with people. It's good for our sense of self. I think when we play games, generally, like, we're having fun and we're feeling good about ourselves. Usually when you're playing a game, you're getting better, you're improving, you're learning. So video games are inherently educational. Even if you're just learning how to better play that game, like how to jump over that pit or whatever, like you're still, your mind is being engaged in a way that it's not with other media. So this should be really obvious, but I often tell people, like, remember, you read a book, you watch a movie or a show, you play a game. And that distinction is important because video games are interactive. They're interactive media. And so they engage our brains on a level that other media don't. There's some really lovely things about that. Like, they're better in a lot of ways for our brains than watching TV. I think they're way better for our brains than social media in some ways. Now there are aspects of video games these days that are very social media like, and that's a whole nother topic of discussion. But yeah, there's lots of benefits that come from them. They give us opportunities to make moral decisions, and that can be good. That there's simulated spaces, teamwork, decision making. Like a lot of times these games, video games today are very social. A lot of times we're playing games, creative problem solving together, and having shared experiences, building real friendships, over video games. So yeah, there's a lot of benefits, I think, that.
Yeah, I totally see that.
Yeah. Like, and of course there's lots of drawbacks too, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. But yeah, I think at its heart, play is a good thing. And video games are games come out of play, and then video games are a type of game. That's sort of the trajectory. Play games, video games.
Yeah.
And play is a beautiful thing. Like, I love it when my kids are outside playing, whatever it is, cops and robbers in the street. We live in a cul-de-sac, so it's safe.
Thanks for clarifying.
But I love seeing their little minds work, and them come up with plans of how they're gonna collaborate and how they're gonna win the game, and just seeing them have a blast and have fun. And video games give us a space to do some of that. It's just in a digital space. It's just in a different environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned all those benefits, but take us to what are some of the drawbacks that can come with?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think the big one that most parents are concerned about today, and rightly so, is like overindulgence or addiction. And I think we need to be careful with that term addiction, because it's a clinical term. And so we should be really careful not to call our kids addicted unless we really know that they are, So because if you're saying, oh, you're an addict, like, you're labeling your child. And if that's not true, then you're being dishonest, and that's not good parenting. But
sometimes those kids, they take on those characteristics of what you continually call them as well.
Absolutely.
So that's a dangerous place to be.
Right. Yep. I have that problem as an adult.
I think every parent's done that once or
Yeah,
twice.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you call your kid a brat long enough, they're probably gonna be a brat.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And it doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't make it better. We think by calling them brats or calling them addicts that we're like saving them from whatever, but really we're just contributing to a poor self-esteem
Right.
and making the problem worse.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I think overindulgence is a problem. I think it's important to recognize like a couple things I think are really important for parents to recognize. One, like kids are bad at boundaries. They're bad at creating boundaries for themselves. That's why parents are so important, right?
Yeah.
Because we help them set those boundaries because we love them. And kids, I think, actually love boundaries in a way, like because I think deep down they know they're really good for them.
Yeah.
They're just they can't articulate, that they need it. And so that's why God places us in their lives. But then secondly, I also think it's important to recognize this is, I think, a unique temptation with video games in that they are designed in a lot of ways to keep us coming back again and again and again. And I try to make the distinction in the book between extrinsic rewards and intrinsic rewards. And in my opinion, intrinsic rewards are more valuable, especially when it comes to video games, than extrinsic rewards. Like, I kind of don't want my kids playing video games just so they can make enough virtual bucks in Fortnite to buy that new skin for their character. I want them, like, if I decide to let them play Fortnite, which I'm not here to like tell any parent whether they should or shouldn't play Fortnite.
Yeah.
But I want them to play for the intrinsic reward of teamwork and hanging out with my friends and the joy of overcoming a problem together, the joy of winning together, or the agony of defeat together, like those shared experiences. I'd rather they not play just because, the game is incentivizing them to come back again and again and again. A lot of video games are kind of designed like slot machines, really. They have these random reward structures that I think kind of like, this is going to sound over the top a little bit, but it's true. I think they kind of prey on the psychology of children who don't, and adults, honestly. None of us are good at setting boundaries for ourselves, if we're honest. We all need like accountability, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, but more so with kids, because their brains are not fully developed. They don't know, they're not good at setting limits for themselves. And so yeah, I think that's my biggest concern.
Yeah.
But there's also, certainly I think parents should be concerned about content, violence and sexual content and so forth in games, toxicity and like bullying that happens online. I think, in my opinion, no kid should just have like unfiltered access to the internet in any of its forms.
Right.
And so we need to recognize, like, video games are today, they are a type of access to the internet.
Yeah.
Which opens us up to all kinds of dangers that I think we just need to arm ourselves to be aware of and to protect our kids. It's just, you can't take chances with that stuff these days.
Right.
So you've got the kids that don't want any boundaries. You have parents that want the boundaries. So how can we play out that battle in a healthy way in the house between the kids and the parents? What can the parents do to make this as good as it can be? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. In my book, I encourage sort of a collaborative approach in a way, because I think, first of all, I'd say like 99.9% of kids need some rules around video games. There's that rare kid out there that's like loves to play soccer and loves to do this and that and the other. And so they just like, they don't play video games very much. You don't really have to set rules for them because they're going to play like maybe once a week or something.
Yeah.
That's not most kids. Most kids need clear boundaries. But what I say in the book is to come up with some rules as a family, and make those rules clear. They should be like rules that you can explain in a minute or less. If your rules are more complicated than that, then you're kids are going to like even accidentally break them. And the goal of parenting is always like, we always want to set our kids up for success. You don't want to create rules that are going to like be things that kids don't get. They need to be clear. Make them collaborative. So I actually encourage parents to invite their kids into the process of making those rules. I'm not saying that the kids get to decide the rules themselves.
Yeah.
You know, but what I am saying is give them a seat at the table, listen to them, ask them what kind of rules do you think I should have, you know, or what, you know, ask your kids, what kind of rules do you think we should set for you around video games and screen time?
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised they might have some good ideas, you know? So like, clear, collaborative, and written down. I think the other thing is just write them down. So it's on the family chalkboard, or it's on the, you know, it's posted. Everybody knows. Here's what they are. We worked these out together. This is what we're going to do. And to be honest with you, like there's no one size fits all rule, I think, because every kid is different, you know?
Absolutely.
And every family structure is different. And some kids need more boundaries, and some kids like ours are constantly adapting. That's why I don't make one. That's why I didn't make one and be like, hey, here's what we do. And it's perfect because like it's changed a lot over the years. And now we have a system where we have like 2 days a week that are screen-free days, and the kids can only play video games after like 4:00, or I think is the rule now. And you know, and that's what works for us. And you know, they get a certain amount of time during the week. They get like an hour on weekdays, the weekdays that they can play. Then on the weekends they get 2 hours, you know. That feels a little complicated, honestly, as I say it, as I'm thinking out loud. But again, this is what's working in the Dixon household at the moment.
Right.
But
and that's
but it could change.
Know what's happening. Yeah.
Next week
Make
it
sure
could be
everybody
different.
gets the memo.
Right.
But we post it. You know, post it.
Right, we did something similar when we were parenting, but not with video games. Ours were a little younger, but we had a chart, you know, where it was basically each kid and kind of their first infraction we would have this discipline, and it was different for all of them because just like you're saying, they just all, you know, different things are going to affect them all differently. And so we have their first infraction was this, and the second one was this, and it was different for all the kids. And we definitely have one kid that didn't hardly play video games at all, still doesn't. And so we have the one that we have to worry about with that. And so, but I really have never, I feel like I've looked at the ratings and stuff on games. I want to know if you think like those are accurate. Like, do you pay attention to that, or do you like go read somewhere else about that?
I honestly think they're better than some other rating systems.
Okay.
They're more descriptive, to be honest, than like movie, the, you know, PG or R or PG-13 ratings that movies get.
It's very broad.
The governing board for that regulates the ratings for video games is the ESRB. And they do a pretty good job. I think they're helpful. It's a good place to start. I think they're probably not, I would say for me anyway, they're probably not sufficient. A lot of times I want more information than what the ESRB gives. You know, it'll say this is rated E10 for comic mischief or something, or this is rated mature 17 and up because of, you know, strong language and violence or whatever. But you don't know what, you know, is that like, because there's different types of violence, right? Like we didn't get into that, but you know, I think like the violence that you commit in, say, like a Legend of Zelda game where you're fighting like goblins in order to protect the innocent from the forces of evil. To me, that's a different type of violence than like what you see in something like Grand Theft Auto or something that's really like wanton violence and really like kind of destructive and there's not any redemptive qualities in that type of violence. So but so I really like, there's a site that I find really helpful. It's not a Christian website, but I find it super helpful. It's Common Sense Media.
Okay. Yeah, we've gone there.
Yeah. Games though.
Yeah, you can go to like any media category basically.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, they have great video game reviews, and so they have professionally written reviews by like video game critics, and they're going to list out, hey, here's what all is in this video game. Here's the kind of messages that are there, and here's, you know, the kind of content that's there. And then they also have like user generated reviews, which I find helpful, where parents will actually write a review and say, hey, I'm a parent of a 7-year-old and I'm going to review whatever Super Mario Odyssey or whatever, and and so it's kind of good that you can get like real time parents to share their thoughts.
Yeah.
And again, it's not Christian, so there may be some things that they think of as positive messages that you don't.
Yeah.
But at least that's spelled out for you,
Right.
At least it's written out.
As much information as you can get to kind of make your decision.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Another great resource too is just Twitch or YouTube. Twitch is where kids will or not just kids, I shouldn't say kids, it's actually more adults than kids. It's where people stream their own video gaming.
Yeah.
It's like you can watch me play the new Call of Duty or Fortnite or whatever. And I'm like broadcasting my gaming on the internet. The reason that's helpful for parents is because if you want to know what a video game's like, you can go watch someone play it on Twitch. Yeah. You can search for whatever new game's out. Just type that in the search bar at twitch.com. Just like TWICH, .com, and you can watch somebody play it. Same with YouTube. YouTube has live gaming, but then also you can just watch some YouTube videos of people record their playthroughs and post them to YouTube. Go search for that game. And I mean, just if you watch for a couple, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, you can get a sense of the kind of content and whether or not you want that game in your home, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, our youngest son watches Corey Kitchens all the time.
Okay.
And he just watches him play. And I've never understood. I get it as a parent, like you're getting some information. But I'm like, Alex, why do you watch him play? And I guess he gets hints or he sees what Corey, he just likes Corey in general. So
yeah. I used to think that too, but it's because like it honestly, as a longtime gamer, it doesn't appeal to me. Like, I don't want to spend my free time watching other people play video games. Like,
right, you want to
play. Like, if I'm gonna do something video game related, I'm gonna be holding a controller playing a game. Yeah. But I guess it's not that different from like the reason people watch sports or something. It's if you grew up playing soccer, then like you're gonna get a lot more enjoyment out of watching an English Premier League game or I live in Nashville, watching Nashville SC play than someone who doesn't have context for soccer. But same with like these kids who grow up playing. If you're really into like League of Legends or something, then watching other people who are really good at League of Legends or even are just entertaining to watch play League of Legends, you're going to get a kick out of that. And you're going to find it interesting in a way that the average person wouldn't. So I get it to some level, even though it's like, I agree with this, like not for me,
I guess as a baseball fan, it's like having a baseball game on in the background. Like I'm doing other stuff and I can go look at the game and come back. So
yeah,
kind of like that.
Yeah, totally.
We've talked about like the stereotypical like gamer, like we envision the guy in his basement of his parents' house. He's 30 years old and he's still playing games and very isolated. But I think with the bandwidth, and it's what you talk about in the book too, with the bandwidth that we have now, it's really become more of a social thing. And that's really what our youngest does. Like all his friends get on in the evenings and it's the way they hang out.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I love it when I walk into the room and they're like, "Hi, Mrs. Hardy." I'm like, "Hey guys," like but they're all there. I feel like they're there. I like want to offer them a snack or something.
So how can we use the social element how can we use that in a positive way, especially for Christians? How can we use that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that games bring people together. That's one of the nice things about them is that they are social. And I think it's really easy as parents to sort of thumb our noses at that and be annoyed by that. Cause it's like, can't y'all like find community around something that we think is more productive? Like soccer or music or whatever, crafting. I don't know. But the reality is that like, I think it's important to recognize that like God actually commands us to do things that are not productive. We're supposed to have a whole day of not being productive. Once a week, he scheduled in his design for creation and humanity a day of unproductivity where we're not producing money or products or food. We're resting. And so I think video games can be a form of rest. But they can also, I think that's part of it, just like on a personal level. There is a way to play video games that is enjoyable, that's restful. God wants us to have fun. Like there's nothing, not only is there nothing wrong with that, there's something good about that.
Yeah.
we as human beings are really good at taking good things and corrupting them. So when I acknowledge that, like we're really good at being like, oh, video games are good. Well, then I'm going to play 17 hours a day. That's not good.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, I think with your kids, how can, you know, if video games are the way they connect with their friends, I mean, do what y'all are doing. Invite them, let them play at your house where you know they're safe, where you can, you know, they can play in a room where you can see what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, if you let them play in the rooms, which I don't recommend, but if you do, like, door has to be open, you know, but, you know, pop your head in there, make sure what's going on, you know. Set up some parental controls. You know, you can kind of control what your kids can and can't do on most video game systems. And with just a little bit of research online, you can figure out how to implement those parental controls so that you can kind of protect them a little bit better. But yeah, they're going to meet friends. They're going to connect with people. And if your kids are Christians, if you're a Christian home, that's a way to point people to Christ. You know, I have a whole chapter in the book about how video games can be a source of mission. Like they can be a way that we connect. I think we live in like a really divided world where it's like if we perceive people to be different than us politically or theologically or whatever, we're so quick to go like, I don't know, just shun people and stuff. Whereas I think the Jesus we see in the Bible is like figuring out ways to hang out with people. He was known to eat and drink with sinners and tax collectors, sinners, quote unquote, you know, air quotes, and tax collectors. And video games, I think, are a way for us to build relationships, you know, because when you're playing a video game, you're not like, your first question is not like, are you a Democrat or a Republican, or like,
Yeah.
you know, you just want to play and you want to win and you want to have fun together.
Yeah.
And sometimes we need that to like I have mountain biking friends who are super different from me politically, theologically. Like, you know, I have one mountain biking friend who's a pretty strong atheist. But we're really close because what built our relationship was riding bikes together, you know? And I think that you can, obviously there's a through line there to video games too. It's like, I like you because we play, you know, League of Legends, or we play whatever together, and you're, you know, you're my wingman on League of Legends or whatever it is. Yeah, that builds camaraderie and trust and friendship, and once you have that, that's what's needed, I think, to share I mean, we can share the gospel a number of ways, but when you have that sort of like shared relationship and you built some trust through just spending time together, then people are going to listen when you say, well, yeah, here's what I think about life or God or any other important topics, morality or whatever it is. They're going to less likely to think you're out to lunch, and more likely to listen.
Yeah. And they know that if you've built a relationship, then they know that you care. So then, okay, I'm going to listen to them closer than I would have, like you say, if I'd have just jumped on you as soon as I met you and, you know, oh, whoa, what's going on here? Yeah, it's building that commonality that helps you be able to just have real conversations with people. I don't know that we do that great. Like you say, we're so, like, I disagree with you on this, so I'm not talking to you anymore. And it's like, it's just so, it's weird to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's unhealthy. Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
So tell us about Love Thy Nerd.
Yeah, sure. Sure, yeah. I co-founded Love Thy Nerd about 5 years ago with some friends. Yeah, it's a ministry that exists to be the love of Jesus to nerds and nerd culture. And so Love Thy Nerd does nerd ministry. They go to like video game conventions and board game conventions, and also just like write we have a website where there's articles about nerd culture and all kinds of things. And the goal is just to help people see that, I think, really to see video gaming and nerds culture as an opportunity, as like almost like a people group that we can reach with the love of Jesus if we'll engage that space responsibly. We're not telling anyone to just play whatever game and like, you know, just like embrace all of it, but yeah, get in there and engage. If you're a bit of a nerd, if you're into video games or board games or anime or comics, like think of a way to leverage that for the kingdom. And that's really what it's about. And so, yeah,
That's
it's
really
kind of
cool.
as simple as that.
We went to Comic-Con a few years ago, and I met these guys. They were stormtroopers, but they was also a ministry. So they would go to
Oh,
different
cool.
events, and they would share the gospel like through being stormtroopers. So I thought that was pretty cool. So that's one way you could.
Yeah.
I love the term nerd ministry. I love that phrase because I'm a nerd. So it's right up my alley for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Same.
I think you've given so many awesome tips and tricks on like parenting and how to navigate those waters with your kids. I mean, it's just a lot to handle, and it sounds like you're doing a great job in your house too.
Oh,
I think
thanks.
something else I love is dads that will sit down with their kids and play. It's, not necessarily just being like you're doing that and I'm over here, but if you grew up and you're a sports person, but your son really likes this, I mean, that's a way to connect with your child, and so you hop in with what they're doing and see how you can learn from them. And when you are, I always say to my boys, when you're not having a face-to-face conversation, but a side-to-side conversation sometimes is a little bit easier than having a face conversation. So I always say, like, anything that you can be looking this way, but having saying something hard is for boys, like it's a good place to be, so you can get information out of them. So
yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, I think it's a huge ministry tool for parents, honestly, with your own kids. I love what you said, because a big part of, in my opinion, being a good parent is ultimately, like, we go back to what we're called to do. We're ultimately called to love our kids, right? I think that's what it means to be a parent. There's some parents that are like, well, I don't have to be their friend. I disagree. I think you do. To be a good parent, you do have to be their friend. You have to care about them enough that you say to them, I want to be in your world. Like, that's what God did for us in by taking on human flesh and dwelling among us. Is he said, I want to be in your world. I want to be with you. I want to, it was part of how he demonstrated our value to him. And I think the same is true for parents. If you're not making an effort to get into their world, and listen, it might be painful for you to play video games with your kids. Like, you might be terrible, but like, who cares, right? Like, I mean, yeah, like, it's probably not going to be, I'm better right now. I'm better. My kids think I'm cool because I'm better at video games than they are, but the day is coming when that's going to change.
Oh yeah, they're going to pass you up for sure.
Yeah. And that's fine. Like, that's not, my goal is not to win. Your goal as a parent should not be to win.
Right.
Should be to love your kids, I think, all of us. And so, if you think about it more as building a relationship, maybe you can get over your lack of skill and humble yourself and play with them. But even if you can't bring yourself to do that, one thing that every parent can do that's really simple is just, because video games are so contentious, it's such a source of resentment for a lot of parents with regard to their kids. And so what I want to say is, like, just take an interest, at the very least, like, ask questions, and not like, why do you like that game? What's wrong with you? But like, why do you like this new Zelda game? Like, why are you so into it? And you'll be surprised at how they like light up and just want to tell you all about it. And it's going to be hard for you to listen because you're like, I don't care.
I don't know what you're saying.
Yes.
Right. But what we all do care about, I think, if we're honest and get down to it, is we care about our kids. So we should care about the things they care about, make an effort. It's just like, if your spouse is into something that you don't care about, if you love them, you'll make an effort to, why are you so into this show that you're watching every day? Even though you think it's stupid, you're still going to make an effort. Right. That's part of how you express love to your kids.
I agree.
And I think, and I think too, if you'll do that, you'll find that like, kids will respect your boundaries and rules more. If kids feel like rules are coming from someone who's clearly expressing love to them and is like someone who makes them feel safe. And it's like, okay, I'll turn it off now.
Right.
And more knowledgeable about what's going on. Like, if because you talk about in the book of, you set a timer and then it's time to save it, or they have to finish their level. It's not go turn it off. It's like, okay, you get 5 more minutes to finish out your level. So it's the knowledge of, if you know a little bit about the game, they can respect. Okay, they know about this game, so I'll go with the rules since they know about it.
Oh yeah, because I'm totally guilty of like, turn it off, and they're like, I can't turn it off. They're freaking out, and I'm like, but why? I don't understand.
Yeah. That is something I kind of hate about modern video games is like, why can't we just like have them be able to save at any point, you know?
Right, yeah.
But it's like always
exactly.
online games and stuff. It's annoying.
Exactly.
Well, part of that is probably to keep you playing, so you
Yeah.
stay on
Oh
it.
yeah, it is
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Drew, man, this has been great. So I love your message and I love the book and just
Yeah.
it's just so helpful for parents and kids to just look at video games in a healthy way and not
Yeah.
just have a bad attitude about it like we've talked
Mm.
about.
Yeah.
That can happen so easily.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. So your book is called Know Thy Gamer, which I love because it actually just insinuates so much about like you really have to know your kid. And I love that you
Yeah.
talk all about that, just like really being intently knowing your child.
Yeah.
And your ministry is called Love Thy Nerd. So we are going to tag both of those and make sure we get that out there. This has been great. I'm a hairdresser. I have people sit in my chair all the time asking me how to navigate these waters right here. So I'm so excited to have your source to give that to them.
Well, yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Yes.
appreciate it. And you can get it pretty much anywhere books are sold, but you can go check it out at knowthygamer.com. So there's knowthygamer.com, and there's also, if you want to check out the ministry, go to lovethynerd.com. But those two places would get you more information about the book and then about the ministry that I've partnered with.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's awesome. We gotta love our nerds, Rebecca.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
love
right.
our nerds.
Okay, thanks so much, Drew.
Drew, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Man, so much good stuff from Drew.
So much.
We have to love our nerds, people. We really do.
Listen, I think I do a great job of loving my nerd.
You definitely love thy nerd. I appreciate you. It is a blessing how much you love your nerd.
Yeah. You're welcome. I love actually that you want to connect with the boys on all levels. You can talk sports, you can talk video games, you can do all different, you just across the board, you try to engage with your kids, which I think is part of his ministry is like just engaging with people for that purpose. And so I love that.
Well, and even with me, it's like I don't know all these things super well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I probably know sports a lot better than video games.
Yeah.
And even on some of the sports, I know basketball and baseball better than football. So it's not really about me knowing everything. It's just a way to communicate and keep. And as the boys get older and now they're young men, it's like, okay, we have a little something to talk about. I can text them and go, hey, did you see that play? Or did you see this movie? Or and it's a way to keep contact and keep fellowship going there.
Yes.
So
I appreciate that you do that.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to watch women's college softball with me.
They will, but it kind of begrudgingly.
That's true.
Yeah.
Guys, we hope you learned so much from this podcast. Go out and get his book, Know Thy Gamer. So good. Again, we hope you enjoyed this podcast with Drew Dixon, Hardy Party 5 1/2. Over and out.
Go love those nerds.